Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to discuss the possible influence Warhammer the Old World, the newest tabletop game announced by Games Workshop set in the Warhammer Fantasy setting, could have on Total War Warhammer. So without further ado, let's begin. The map which has been showing on screen is that of Warhammer the Old World. Well, at least that of what Games Workshop have actually shown the general public. But it is being hailed by the fans as the revival of Warhammer Fantasy due to the popularity of games such as Vermintide and of course Total War Warhammer. Warhammer the Old World, as far as we are aware, is set a few hundred years before its current timeline in that in Total War Warhammer or in Warhammer Vermintide. Old World is acting as a sort of prequel to the eventual rise of Karl Franz and the end of the world with the end times. So with that, we are aware that the timeline is exactly the same, and with that, we are aware that Warhammer the Old World will present new lore, new miniatures, and so on. So with all that being said, how could the Old World influence Total War Warhammer in the future? Well, obviously, in a lore aspect, not so much. The Total War series of games have always been relatively sandbox, and in truth should always stay the same. The little bit of narrative already added into Total War Warhammer works perfectly fine as it is. Add in too much and we really can't call it Total War anymore, can we? But in regards to new miniatures being introduced from Old World into Total War Warhammer, this could work incredibly well. We are aware that Games Workshop and Creative Assembly work closely together in regards to the Total War Warhammer series. This was very obviously shown off when the Vampire Coast was announced and then released, where, for those not aware, the Vampire Coast did not have their own army book, not enough for a full roster of course, but the collaboration from both companies eventually saw the roster fleshed out. Why is this all relevant? Well, a while back, Games Workshop were dropping little info dumps in regards to Warhammer the Old World. They have become less frequent now. However, in one of the early info dumps, they announced one of the playable races for Old World. That of Kislev, a much requested faction for Total War Warhammer. Now there is a level of importance in regards to this. You see, Kislev was indeed playable in Warhammer Fantasy battles, but like the Vampire Coast, they were also a supplement-based faction, and did not have their own army book. In truth, Kislev worked more as an allied detachment to the Empire more than anything else. Their roster was small, with a few characters here and there, and some basic troops. They were playable, but not in a competitive sense, so Kislev itself suffered from lack of extra characters, units, and even artillery and magic. Fast forward to the announcement of Kislev in Old World, where Games Workshop had stated that new units are being introduced to this race. Through these info dumps, we were shown the concept art to two new units. The Kislevite Bear Riders, just the bear of course, which really doesn't need much explaining, and a new unit known as the Ice Guard, which seems to be some sort of Royal Guard / Ice Witch. We're not going to talk about their art style themselves. Some people like it and some people hate it. We've seen people's thoughts in regards to this online already many a time. But if these units get introduced to Old World, then they would therefore be considered canon. It could then be expected that Creative Assembly could then introduce these units into Total War Warhammer, as Kislev, as stated before, is lacking on a bunch of different troops. We are obviously aware that Warhammer the Old World is still a few years away from release, but that doesn't mean that we'll have to wait a number of years until Kislev is introduced into Total War Warhammer. Creative Assembly had confirmed that it is the next major title that they're working on, and Kislev is one of those order races yet to be implemented into the series. It could be possible that these units could be implemented as future DLC content. Let's be honest here, Creative Assembly and GW are going to milk Warhammer 3 not until the cow goes dry, but until the cow has fully rotten away. Or if you want to go with a full tinfoil hat theory, it could be that Games Workshop showed off these concept art specifically because they've passed on that concept art directly to Creative Assembly so they may introduce those units at launch. What better way to hype up the old world than to have those units already available in the Total War Warhammer series? It would make it much easier to market the minis when they're eventually released if people are already aware of them in another form of media. Both of these theories make sense to me, and regardless of which one ends up being correct, if any of them do end up being correct, then that opens up the opportunity for many minor races and factions to be represented in both Old World and Total War Warhammer in the future. Think of factions such as the Southern Realms, Talia, Estalia and the Border Princes, which yes had their own army book in the forms of Dogs of War, but the roster itself didn't have that many region specific units. This would be the perfect time to flesh them out properly. The same could even be said for locations such as Albion, or if we want to use the tinfoil hat once again, it is important to note that when Kislev was originally shown off, with the map of Kislev being shown off too, there is a small mention in that said map in regards to the Norse dwarfs, more commonly known in Total War Warhammer as Cracker Drak. If they're now still relevant in lore, then that could mean that they might be introduced officially into Total War Warhammer. Of course, this is purely speculation, but it does make somewhat sense to me. What do you guys think in regards to this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.